Hi, I'm Hayden Hewitt, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Schecter limited edition V7 Korina. On first impressions, the V7 Korina actually looks fairly traditional. If you get beyond the fact it does actually have 7 strings, we have this Korina body with the cream binding that runs all way around the body, neck and headstock. Stop tailpiece, no locking nut or anything like that. It looks like a traditional Korina V. Only on closer inspection do you notice some of the key differences here. The top horn, for example, of the V is slightly shorter than the low one. This not only gives it a slightly different look, it does actually help with the balance when the guitar's on a strap. If we look at the construction here, as I mentioned, it is a Korina body and neck, and it's a through neck on this example. And the benefits for through neck are fairly obvious. You have almost completely unfettered access to the top frets, especially when you take into account these extended cutaways on the body. Now, a nice cosmetic touch here is when you have a through neck guitar, you have the central piece that runs all the way through, then you have a wing, one either side, that's attached to make up the body of the guitar. And you can see that on the back, though perhaps not on video. And what Schecter have done is it appears they've used one solid laminate of Korina on the front, and it does give the impression that the guitar is hewn from a solid piece of Korina. Again, it's purely a cosmetic thing, but it is a nice one. The neck itself is actually quite chunky on this guitar. It's certainly not a skinny speed neck, though it does have a rather pleasing flat back section, which means it's actually remarkably comfortable when playing thumb behind and really motoring on. If you're one of those players that likes to have their thumb over, that's obviously going to be a bit difficult here. You would need some freakishly long digits. We have 24 jumbo frets mounted on the rosewood fretboard here, along with these rather tasty Gothic cross inlays. Looking at the rest of the hardware here, we have a Tone Pros locking bridge with string through, and the locking aspect comes into play that once you get it set up exactly how you like, you pretty much lock it down, which prevents it moving around during playing and getting out of sorts. This cuts down drastically on how often you might have to set up the guitar. Up at the top end here, we have some Schecter locking tuners. Obviously the benefits are twofold with locking tuners. Firstly, they keep things nice and stable due to not needing as many wraps around the post here, but also they speed up string changes considerably, and that can only be a good thing, because let's be honest, who really enjoys changing strings? Moving on to the pickups here, these are actually EMG 707 TWs. Now the 707s in use seem a little less aggressive than one we're used to from EMGs you tend to find in more rock or metal guitars. Don't let that lull you into a false sense of security, though. They're still plenty pokey, and this guitar is an incredibly lively guitar, and it really does put it out. What's rather special about the TWs is that they can actually be coil tapped, and to do this we simply move to the controls here. We have a neck volume, a bridge volume and a master tone, and to activate the coil tap it's simply on a push-pull pot. Now, the coil tap sounds are perhaps not the most satisfying aspect of these pickups, but then again, I don't know anyone that would buy a guitar like this hoping that it'd sound like a Strat. They do, however, give you a little more to play with in terms of tone if you're doing a spot of recording, or indeed just need something a little bit more jangly for a certain piece. Being active pickups, they of course need a battery compartment, and that's located just here on the bottom horn of the V, and handily this is a snap open cover, so you don't have to go diving for your screwdrivers every time you've forgotten to change the batteries. On the whole, the construction on the guitar is fantastic. It feels more expensive than it actually is, and is surprisingly comfortable to use considering it is a V and it does have quite a large neck. So that's the spec and the hardware covered. I think it's time we took a listen to some of the sounds here. So let's start off with the clean sounds that you get from the Schecter V7. And now let's move on to some overdriven and dirty sounds. Being a limited edition, you're obviously not going to see a huge amount of these down at your local store. In fact, only 500 have been produced globally. However, if you do manage to get your hands on one, I strongly suggest you give it a whirl. And if you're in the market for something that looks with a nod to the past, but is definitely very modern, you could do far worse than get yourself on one of these V7s. Okay, that brings us to the end of the review. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next video.